On day 1, I woke up in a basket, floating down a river. Whoa, where am I? Who am I? The basket washed up on the edge of the river, and I hopped onto the shore. That's when I noticed I had a cane in my hand. I took a closer look. The cane of Moses, a reminder of his parents. I'm Moses, but I'm just a baby with 3 hearts. At least my parents gave me this cool cane that doesn't seem to have any special powers. I wonder where they are. Just then, I heard a splash in the water behind me, and a crocodile came jumping out of the water. Ah, I gotta go. A giant crocodile like that could eat a baby like me in one bite. As I ran into the desert, I soon climbed a hill, finding a small village on the other side. A village! I'll bet there's someone here who can help me find my parents. As I ran into the village, I noticed there didn't seem to be anyone around. Hello? Anyone? Can anyone hear me? Hello? I had run through the whole village, but nobody was here. Another mystery to solve. It was soon getting late, so I decided that I'd spend the night here. Maybe I could find out what was going on tomorrow. On day 2, I woke up to the silence of the abandoned village. If I'm gonna find out where everyone went, I need to be prepared. The house I was in needed some repairs, so I headed over to the trees to get myself some wood. Using the wood I had gathered, I made myself a stone pickaxe as well as some wood slabs. Then I used the wood slabs to fill in the roof. Next up, more tools. I headed over to a nearby hill and used my pickaxe to gather limestone that could be used to make limestone tools. As I was mining though, a husk suddenly appeared at the top of the hill. Oh no, I don't have any weapons yet. I hurried and put together a crafting table, then used that to craft a limestone sword. I turned around just in time. The husk and I had a fearsome battle, and he brought me down to half a heart. Armed with my sword though, I was able to deliver the final blow. That's what you get for trying to mess with me. It was at that moment that I realized I didn't have any food. I had seen a wheat field earlier, so I built myself a bridge across the river so I could go to it. I was pretty sure I couldn't swim. I was just a baby after all. With my stomach growling, I quickly started harvesting as much wheat as I could. Suddenly, I heard something rustling in the wheat behind me and turned to see a hippo. Ah, oh wait, you're just a baby, like me. What's your name? Just then, I heard a terrifying sound and turned to see an adult hippo looking right at me.
Get away from my little brother!
He looked angry, and I still only had half of a heart. I had to get out of there. I ran back across my bridge, breaking a couple blocks behind me. Once I had gotten away, I hurried and made myself some bread. Bread has never tasted so good. Later that evening, I heard a sound outside my window. When I looked outside, the baby hippo from before was out there.
Hey, I'm sorry to bug you, but I wanted to apologize for earlier. My brother Hugo was kind of intense.
I hopped down the side of the building. That's okay. He really scared me. You seem nice though.
I try to be. My name is Harry. Here, I brought you some fish to say sorry. I'll see you around.
I thanked him for the fish and quickly got them cooking in the furnace so they could be ready for the next day. Then I used some of my remaining limestone to finish making a set of limestone tools. On day 3, I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps. The villagers, they must be back. I hurried down the ladder to greet them when I was suddenly swarmed by a group of husks. Oh no, I forgot to fix the door. The husks tried to surround me as I ran out of the house. I could fight one of them off, but it wasn't looking like I could handle a whole group of them. Just as all hope was lost, Hugo came charging in to help. In no time, he managed to fight off all of the husks. Wow, you saved me. Thank you.
No problem. Harry told me he stopped by and said you were a nice guy. Sorry for scaring you earlier.
That's okay. Those husks should have been more scared. Feel free to stop by anytime. After Hugo had left, I suddenly felt more strength returning to my limbs, and I grew into a teenager. And now I have 7 hearts. The next day, I was walking around the edge of town when I saw someone taking a look at the basket I had spawned in. Just then, the crocodile that had attacked me showed up again, catching her off guard. Hang on, I'll help you. I ran over to her and started fighting off the crocodile. With my new strength, I was much better suited for this fight. I kept swinging my sword and was able to take him out.
Wow, nice moves. I thought I was a goner for sure.
I'm happy to help. Say, I was hoping you might be able to help me with something. The village over there is completely empty. Do you know what happened to everyone?
Oh, yes, the people that used to live here. They're gone.
Yeah, do you know where?
Yeah, I do. They moved.
Oh, really? All of them? Something bad must have happened.
No, not bad. They all live in the city now. My dad is actually the pharaoh there. Speaking of, you should come live in the city. It's really not safe out here.
I agreed, and she showed me the way. I was getting tired of being attacked by crocodiles and husks every day. On days 4 to 5, the princess and I arrived at the big city. The princess, whose name was Nubia, showed me around. Wow, this city is huge. It must have taken a long time for you guys to build everything. Nubia simply nodded as we walked closer to the palace. She was taking me to meet the pharaoh. As I entered the throne room, I could see the pharaoh sitting on his throne.
Nubia, welcome home. And who do we have here?
Father, I wanted you to meet Zozo. I was attacked by a crocodile, and he saved me when I thought all hope was lost.
Nubia, what have I told you about wandering along the river? Thank goodness young Zozo was here to save you. Zozo, I am in your debt. Please, let me settle it by giving you a place to stay here in our prosperous city.
Wow, that would be amazing. This is a beautiful city.
I will give you one of our finest rooms. You can live next door to my son. Ramses, come say hello to our new friend.
Ramses came running over with 2 servants behind him.
I heard you saved my sister. Nice going. Although don't get too comfortable uncomfortable. She's always needing someone to bail her out.
Nubia rolled her eyes as the pharaoh led us out to a balcony overlooking the city.
This city is my pride and joy. As our newest citizen, I just want to make sure you understand its history. Many years ago, I was born to rule and lead these people. If not for me, this place would be a disaster. So anyone who lives here should be happy and grateful to be here.
I nodded, but man, this guy really seemed full of himself. But I did appreciate having a place to stay. I couldn't wait to meet all the happy people in the kingdom.
Nubia, please, show Zozo around the city so he can see everything I've accomplished. Ramses, you join them. Go on.
Ramses, Nubia, and I left the palace, and they began to show me around. There were some really amazing things to see. There were monuments, statues, and lots of buildings. This was some of the best building I had ever seen. Wow, I can't believe your dad was able to build all of this. That's really impressive.
Well, he didn't actually build it himself. The people from the desert villages built a lot of it.
Yeah, but if Dad wouldn't have given them direction and a place to live, they would have been miserable. They're much happier here.
We continued the tour, but I started to notice that most of the people didn't seem to look very happy. In fact, I thought all of them looked like they were hungry. I wasn't so sure about all of this. At the end of the day, Ramses showed me to my room. It was a lot nicer than the rooms of the people we had passed. He told me to get some rest, as tomorrow there was a special show scheduled that he thought I'd enjoy. I headed over to the bed and laid down for the night. On day 6 through 8, I followed Nubia and Ramses out of the palace and to the city coliseum. Ramses seemed pretty excited about the special show we were going to. We soon reached the VIP booth where the pharaoh was already seated.
You can take my seat, Zozo. I like to get close to the action.
As I sat, I noticed that Nubia didn't seem very happy to be here, but she didn't say anything. Just then, a door in the arena opened and a gladiator came walking into the arena as the crowd cheered. Were we about to watch some kind of fight? Then the door on the opposite side opened and a giant hippo entered the arena. Is that Hugo? Hugo was chained to a post and the gladiator started to attack him. The crowd began to cheer. What is he doing? He's going to hurt him.
Yes, my boy, that is the point. That's our strongest warrior down there, giving us all a little entertainment after a long week's work.
But it's not even a fair fight. Hugo's chained to the post. He can barely fight back.
Hugo, don't tell me you've named the beast.
He's no beast. He's my friend. I'm sorry, but I have to do this. I thought I saw Nubia give me a small grin as I jumped down into the arena. I ran up to the gladiator and hit him with my sword.
What the? Where did this keep come from?
My hit had managed to distract the gladiator for just a second, which let Hugo start to get some hits in. With the gladiator distracted, I quickly broke the post he was chained to, then jumped on his back.
Enough!
Several pillars rose up from the ground as the pharaoh rose from his seat.
Zozo, we opened our homes to you out of the kindness of our hearts, and this is how you repay us? If you won't accept us, then we can never accept you. Leave now, or my gladiator will destroy you. You are hereby banished.
This hippo is my friend. I can't support someone who would hurt him for their own entertainment. I'm sorry. I turned and rode out of the city on Hugo's back. How was I going to survive now? On days 9 through 10, I was wandering in the desert. Hugo had told me to stay with him, but I couldn't risk putting him in danger, so I continued on alone. But I couldn't feel too bad for myself, as I was suddenly attacked by a pack of hyenas. I'm definitely not in the city anymore. Get back, you fiends! The hyenas snapped at me, but I managed to hit them enough to keep them all away from me. I better hurry and find some place to set up camp. It's starting to get hot out here. Lucky for me, I soon came across some old ruins. There are all kinds of cool structures here. As I walked through the ruins, I also saw there was an oasis nearby. Oh man, this is just what I needed. This oasis was a beautiful spot to build a camp to live in, so I got right to work building myself a house. It wasn't anything big or fancy, but it was just right for me. I soon finished. Well, I might as well check out some of these ruins while I'm here. I hiked into some of the nearby ruins and started looking through the dusty crates. There were some basic food and resources, but the real gem was the golden desert armor. I kept looking through the crates and was able to find an entire set. This is great. I'm already starting to feel safer. I hiked back to my camp when I heard some sheep nearby. I gathered them up and put them in a pen. These sheep give me an idea. I found a nice plot in the desert and started working on a statue. I think this is going to look really cool out here. I'd love to hear what you think it's going to be. After a bit, part 1 of the statue was complete. On days 11 through 12, I woke up to something interesting outside my door. It was a note. Hello, I saw you come to the old ruin down below. I saw you build with such passion and enthusiasm. You show great promise. I would like to meet you. Come to the location marked on the map. It is in the mountains near here. This could be a trap set by the pharaoh, but I think it's worth the risk. They might be able to help me. With the map in hand, I made my way out into the desert. I had to climb a large hill, but as I reached the top, I saw a torch outside a cave. Inside the cave was an old man.
Zozo, I'm so happy you've come.
Hi, who are you?
I used to be the leader of the desert people, but the pharaoh came and forced them to work for him. He says everyone is happy, but that's because anyone who says otherwise is never seen again.
I knew something was off. I could tell the people in the city weren't as happy as he said they were. Are you going to save them? The old man smiled.
In a way, but that work will be done through you.
Me? How could someone like me ever defeat a powerful pharaoh?
He is powerful, but he relies too much on his own strength. There are other ways we can defeat him.
What do you mean?
That city is his greatest source of pride. If we can destroy destroy his city, not only will he fall apart, but the people of the city can rise up and escape. That city is nothing without the work of the people. It will be up to you to make things bad for him. I should also mention that there is a powerful item buried in this cave. You're not ready for it yet, but I know one day you will be.
I'll do my best. I think I know where to get started. I thanked the old man and headed out of the cave. It was time to head back to the city. On days 13 to 15, I crossed the desert back toward the city. The city soon came into view, and I started stacking my way to the top of the city. If I was going to cause some disruptions, I needed to get a closer look at what was around. I ran along the top of the city and looked over the edge. That's when I noticed there was a water supply running through the center of the city. If I could disrupt the water supply, that would definitely cause some problems for the pharaoh. But I can't cut it off. That would hurt innocent people. Just then, I had the perfect idea, but I needed to head back to the river. I ran back across the city top and headed to the river. Soon, I had reached the riverside, and I could see flowers on the other side.
Need a ride?
Hugo, perfect timing. I was just wondering how I would get across. I soon reached the other side and started gathering up as many roses and poppies as I could. I was going to need them for my special project. Once I had finished collecting as many as I could, I met Hugo back down by the river.
Hey, I found this health regeneration necklace at the bottom of the river. I thought you might be interested in it.
Hugo tossed out the necklace, which I picked up and equipped. He then let me hop on his back and gave me a ride back across the river. Time to get back to the base and start working on my secret plan. On day 16 to 19, I got right to work building a mill. I had a big project in mind, so I was going to need a tool to help me get all of the work done quick. The mill was soon complete, and I got right to work, adding all of the flowers I had gathered the day before to the machine. It didn't take too long, but I soon had a large amount of red dye. This ought to be enough dye. It's all coming together. Just then, I heard a sound outside and went to check out the noise. There was a group of tomb raiders outside. They must be here to raid the ruins. They caught sight of me and charged. I'm not a bad guy. Back off. The raiders were strong and nearly took all of my health. They had some good gear. I wonder if they found all of this in the old tombs. Thankfully, though, I was able to overcome their sword swings and take them all out. As they disappeared, I noticed that they dropped some iron bars. Iron! This will help me be even stronger than before. Guess I'm glad they came here after all. Just then, I felt more strength surge through me, and I grew into an adult. And check it out, I even have a beard. Oh, and more hearts, too. I headed over to the crafting table, and by using the iron I'd picked up, made myself some new iron gear. If anything went wrong on my secret mission tomorrow, I would be ready for a fight. Then I went over to the statue and got to work on the second part. It might look like I'm finishing it, but I have a whole other part to do. Be sure to keep watching to see what it is. On days 20 to 22, I snuck my way back over to the city, ready to put my plan into action. But first, I had to make it there, as I was suddenly attacked by a group of wraiths. Ah, you guys are freaky! With my new iron gear, though, they were going to have a hard time taking me out. I swung my sword and was able to destroy all of them. That was scary, but I've got a mission to complete. Soon, I was making my way through the city streets. There were a lot of guards wandering around, but if I was sneaky, I could weave through the buildings. I had to get to the water supply. I almost got caught, but finally, I made it to the source of the water.
Halt!
Uh-oh, looks like I've got company. A small group of guards attacked. There were a lot of them, but I had to see this through. They hit me again and again, nearly taking all of my health. I can't let them win. I must save the people of this city. I rose up and started swinging even stronger than before. I was starting to win. There was only one guy left, but he managed to get away. I better hurry. I'm sure there will be more guards coming soon. I ran back over to the water supply and started throwing the dye into the water. If I could turn the water red, people might start blaming the pharaoh for their lack of clean water. It took a little while for the change to take effect, but soon the water had all turned red.
What do you think you're doing?
I looked down and saw the guard had returned with the gladiator from the arena. I wasn't going to be able to run away this time.
Who do you think you are, coming back here? And what happened to the water? What have you done?
The pharaoh is no hero. He's forcing people to work for him. It's not right. He needs to let these people go.
No one's gonna ruin our city, especially a little desert man like you.
The gladiator attacked. This was their city's strongest warrior. This was going to be quite the fight. He had a massive sword that really packed a punch. It doesn't have to be like this. Surely you can see that the pharaoh is evil.
My life seems pretty good. Too bad yours is over.
My health was nearly gone, but I had to keep fighting for these people. I kept moving and was finally able to land the final hit. As the gladiator disappeared, he dropped his sword. A claymore, huh? This thing is huge, but it's as light as a feather. I took a look at the guard, and he took off running again. What a wimp. I took a look at the water again. Well, I'm surely going to get the pharaoh's attention now. Just then, I heard a bunch of feet running. A whole battalion of guards were running right at me. That's my cue. Time to go. I jumped over the wall, and the guards ran up and looked down at me. Now I just need to wait and see how the pharaoh responds to my mission. On days 23 to 26, I was still making my way across the desert. Up ahead, I could see some orange rocks. Oh, I could use those for the next stage of the statue. I ran over and got to work mining them out. I've got a cool idea for what I could add to the statue. I think everyone will really like it. As I finished mining, I noticed there was a cave nearby. Maybe there are resources inside I could use. I made my way down into the cave and soon came across some iron ore. Perfect, this is just what I was looking for. I kept going deeper into the cave, mining more resources. Suddenly, the room opened up and there was a massive subscribe on the wall. Oh wow, thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I'm having a lot of fun and I hope you are too. If you haven't subbed yet, I'd love to have you join the team. On days 27 to 31, I was out of the cave and heading back to my base. As I was crossing the desert, I saw a bunch of camels escaping from their caravan. Hang on, I'll help you. The camels went running off behind a small dune and I followed them to the other side. I soon saw that the animals had gathered at a nearby oasis. Hey guys, you were just a little thirsty, weren't you? Suddenly, the camels ran away and a giant crab came walking out of the water. Whoa, where the heck did you come from? The crab snapped at me with his pincers as I swung my sword. His hard shell was difficult to crack, but not too hard for my new sword. The crab was quickly defeated. Phew, now let's get these camels back to their rightful owner. I led the camels back to the grateful trader.
Thank you, sir. Say, are you the one who changed the city water red? I'm glad someone is standing up to the pharaoh. I have a lot of good friends trapped in that city. I passed by there and the pharaoh was pretty mad.
Oh yeah? I'm glad to hear it worked. Hopefully it'll make the people angry enough to rise up against him.
Well, everyone is upset and he's mad, but he's made it even harder for everyone. He's also doubled security around the city. I'm afraid it didn't do what you were hoping.
Oh no, I'll have to figure something else out.
I know just the thing.
The trader headed over to one of his chests, then returned and placed a strange box in front of me.
Here, you can have this. Think of it as a thank you for rescuing my camels.
The trader opened the box and a bunch of frogs jumped out. I didn't see how a box full of frogs, which now had no frogs in it, was going to be any help, but I didn't want to be rude as he was clearly excited to give it to me. Wow, that is so cool. Thanks. I invited the trader to come stay at my base with me to sell his wares. The city wouldn't be safe for him if people knew he had helped me. He agreed, but needed to take care of some things first. I picked the box up and headed back to my base. What could I do next to stop the pharaoh? On days 32 to 35, I returned back to my base. I wasn't sure what to do next yet, but figured it would be a good time to empty my pockets and start smelting the iron I'd collected. With the iron ingots, I then crafted a full set of desert iron armor, as well as a new set of iron tools. I had also gotten a few diamonds in the cave earlier, so I used those to make myself a new diamond pick. Whatever my next step is, I'll be ready for a fight. Just then, I heard the sound of a camel outside and met the trader as he rode up. Hey, glad you could make it. I was thinking about it, and I think it'll be a good idea if we build you a shop. Maybe people are scared to leave the city because they have nowhere else to go.
That is a brilliant idea. I just picked up some fresh items, so I have plenty of things to sell.
I quickly got to work building the trader a shop. If I couldn't free all the people from the city, at the very least I could give the ones who do escape a place to live. The shop was soon finished. Once the trader had settled in, I walked up to see what he had to sell. Hey, I hope you're all settled in. I was hoping you might have some kind of special item that could help me get back at the pharaoh. The trader gave me a confused look.
What do you mean? I thought you would be able to do something with the frog box.
Oh yeah, I mean it was really cool when you showed me it was full of frogs, but since they all had hopped away, I don't really know what to do with it now.
I see. I may not have explained it very well. You see, it's an infinite frog box. Every time you open it, more frogs will come out. You will never run out of frogs.
Man, this guy was really into frogs. But just then, inspiration struck. I had a new idea to get back to the pharaoh, but I was gonna need some help from some old friends. On days 36 to 39, I had arrived back at the river where I met up with Hugo and some of his pals. Hugo, I had a question for you. I recently got this box that can create infinite frogs, and I know just what to do with it. The problem is, I don't have a good way to get into the city now that it has increased security. Do you know a good way in? Before Hugo could answer though, the small bird on his back piped up.
Oh, I know just the thing. Hang on one second.
The little bird flew off. Where could he be going? Moments later, he returned with a much bigger bird.
This is my friend. We're all sick of the pharaoh capturing all of our bird friends and keeping them in cages.
The big bird explained that he could pick me up and carry me over the city, which would let me shake the box, dropping frogs through the whole city. That's a perfect plan. Meet me at the mountaintop near my base tomorrow morning. We've got some frogs to drop. On days 40 to 43, the big bird met me on top of the mountain. I hopped on his back and we flew away toward the city. As we got closer, I could see all the new guards defending it. Let's see them defend against this. As we flew over the city, I started dropping frogs. Down below, I could see the city had started to wake up with a few people roaming around the streets. As the frogs landed, I could hear screams as people began to panic. It looks like the plan is working. By the time I had finished dropping the frogs, the sun had fully risen and the whole city could see something was wrong. I was too busy looking down at the people when I accidentally slipped and fell off the bird, landing in the water below. Uh-oh, that wasn't part of the plan. I hopped up as a couple of townspeople ran over to me.
Zozo, these frogs are disgusting, but we're so glad you're here. The pharaoh is so mean. We want to help, but don't have anywhere to go.
Just then, I heard a shout. The guards were coming. Stay behind me. I have a safe place we can go. We ran for the exit as a group of guards charged at us. Looks like I'm gonna have to fight my way out of this one. The guards were intense, but I was able to cut them down and keep pushing for the exit. Soon enough, we had fought our way out of the city and ran to the desert. I wonder if the frogs would be enough for the pharaoh to let the people go. On days 44 to 49, I arrived back at the base with all of the villagers. We went to have a chat with the trader.
My goodness, Zozo. Look at all of these customers. People. I'm so happy they were able to escape.
So am I. They're here to join our cause. Hopefully we can help everyone else escape too. But in the meantime, let's start building a place for you all to stay. Out behind my house, I got to work making a space for all of the villagers to build their homes. Once the area was prepped, they helped me to build their houses. We had a real town coming together. Soon, all the houses were done. Good job, everyone. This place is looking really great. I can't wait to get more people to move in. With all of the villagers moved in, I was feeling inspired to add the next part of the statue. With a little bit of help, I was able to finish the first part of the next section. Any guesses what I'm building next? After I was finished, the villagers came up to me with a real problem. If people were going to live here, we needed a way for everyone to eat. That's a good point. I think it's a good chance for us to strike back at the pharaoh too. I think we should go back to the city and bring all of their livestock here. That food should belong to you. The villagers agreed. The city would surely fall without a food source. This is a great idea, but I'm sure the pharaoh is going to have increased security. How am I going to be strong enough to get in this time?
Zozo, who are you talking to? I think the heat might be getting to you, but I did find something in the ruins that might help with your problem. Follow me.
On days 50 to 53, the trader led me to the tomb entrance. He explained that the tomb seemed untouched, but he was too scared to go inside. Well, I'll go take a look. Hopefully we can find something helpful. I ran inside. Right ahead of me was a book on a pedestal, so I opened it up. Yeah, this book isn't very helpful. If I can't even read the book, how am I ever gonna get into this place? Wait a second, what's that? Just behind me was a button. I hit the button and heard a secret panel in the wall open. I headed through and entered a massive room. This must have been a pharaoh's tomb.
Who dares enter my tomb? If you can defeat my guardians, then perhaps I will share my secret power with you.
Suddenly, a bunch of gas appeared and started to attack me. Ooh, scary. But that secret power sounds just like what I need. The gas were not very happy to see me and kept shooting fireballs. Unlucky for them though, I was able to hop around and hit the fireballs right back at them. As I destroyed them, I saw that they were dropping gunpowder. Gunpowder! That gives me an idea for the next time we go to the city. I kept fighting until finally all of the gas were defeated. I picked up the gunpowder and took a look around the room. I soon saw a passageway which led me deeper into the tomb.
You may have defeated my gas, but I am not finished with you yet.
Just then, I ran into a jackal, and boy was this guy strong. Those spears are way too OP. I was able to use my shield to block, but just a few hits from the jackal would take me out. I managed to eat some food and heal up, then began to fight back. It was a close one, but I was able to win the fight. I kept going through the tomb when I saw a small tunnel up ahead. Suddenly, I fell down a hole, landing in a small pool of water.
What? How did you get this far? Well, you won't like this.
Just then, a bunch of blazes spawned in and started to attack. One of them even managed to catch me on fire. The fire definitely didn't feel good, but luckily, they weren't as strong as they looked. I was able to defeat them pretty quickly. There was a staircase nearby, so I followed that. I had to be close. Just then, I entered another room and saw the mummified pharaoh appear. I made it! I'll take that secret power, please.
You know, I thought about it, and I decided I want to keep it. Shazam!
A bunch of mummies spawned and attacked me. They were slow, but strong. But I had made it this far, and nothing was going to stop me. The mummies were soon destroyed.
Okay, I guess I'll just do this myself.
Pharaoh hopped down and started to attack me too. You know, we don't have to fight. You can just give me the prize.
Do you have any idea how bored I am? At least this is something to do. Hi-ya!
Honestly, if this guy wasn't attacking me, we'd probably be friends. Soon enough, I had landed a bunch of blows, and he was nearly defeated.
Okay, I think you've proved your point. Go ahead and take the prize.
The mummy pharaoh disappeared. I hopped up and took a look inside of his tomb and found a totem of undying, a set of raw armor, and Horus's ascension. I quickly put on all of the armor and equipped the weapon. Just then, the power began to course through me, and I leveled up into a powerful, full-grown man. And check it out, my beard is legendary. Before leaving the tomb, I had to try out the new weapon. Outside the room, I ran into some more mummies. I hit them with the Horus's ascension, which sent them flying into the air. Looks like it's time to head back to the city and get those animals. On days 54 to 57, I emerged from the tomb, then returned back to my house to craft. At my crafting table, I put together some TNT. You know what they say, the best way out is always through. We're gonna blast our way right through the walls. I went to talk to the villagers, and a few of them agreed to come with me to help. We traveled across the desert and soon came to the farm on the edge of the city. I set up the TNT and set it off. Fire in the hole! The TNT blew a hole in the wall, and we ran into the farm. Alright, you guys start wrangling the animals, and I'll get us some hay. I ran into a nearby shelter and picked up a few hay bales. I ran back outside and handed them out to the villagers. With the hay in hand, they managed to round up all the animals and lead them away. Looks like they're gonna make it out. I might as well grab some more wheat before I leave. I quickly got to it, cutting up as much wheat as I could. I had just about finished gathering all of the wheat and seeds when a group of guards ran up. But look who was leading them. Ramses, what are you doing here?
Zozo, you're the man from the desert? I barely recognize you. I'm so happy to see you again.
You're not angry to see me? I thought you were here to attack me.
No, in fact, I've been trying to join you. All of us here have seen my father's power and influence fading. Please, let us join your community.
I couldn't believe my luck. Ramses had been so nice to me before, and I was happy to have him as part of our group. The more people we had, the better chance we had to free the rest of the villagers. On days 58 to 62, I was back at the base when one of the villagers pulled me aside. He was nervous about Ramses being there with a bunch of palace soldiers. Could we really trust him? Before I could answer, Ramses walked up with his guards.
Don't worry, friend. You don't have anything to worry about. If I didn't come with good intentions, I wouldn't tell you this. The Pharaoh is actually putting together a large army and plans to attack.
If that's the case, then we need to get prepared. Please, if everyone could give me a hand, we can build everything we need.
Don't you think it'll be wiser just to leave things how they are? This is a nice community here. Attacking the Pharaoh will only end in failure. I've seen how powerful this army is.
I think you lack faith, my friend. We won't rest until everyone has been freed. I'm positive we can find a way to win. Ramses didn't seem convinced, but he agreed and asked what we needed to do to get ready. First things first, we started to clear out some of the old ruins. This was going to be the perfect place to set up our farms. We had an army to feed, so we had to make sure we had a good farm. Next, we got to work building a barracks for all of the soldiers. This would give them a place to rest and get ready for the fight ahead. I was able to get plenty of help, so we were able to finish it pretty quickly. Then I met Ramses outside. Ramses, I know living in the desert is quite a transition for you. I can build you a special place if you'd like.
That is okay. I will live in a regular house like everyone else. However, I wouldn't mind helping you out with that statue.
Ramses then joined me as we worked on the next part of the statue. It was really starting to come along. As we worked, I mentioned that I would go speak with the old man in the cave to see if he had any ideas. When I mentioned the old man, Ramses asked to join me, to which I agreed. We would go in the morning. Soon, the next part of the statue was complete. On days 63 to 66, Ramsey and I headed up the mountain toward the cave. As we crossed the mountaintop, we ran into a bunch of spiders. What are these spiders doing all the way up here? Ramses and I sprang into action, fighting them off. Working together, we were able to defeat them in no time. It was nice having a good fighter to help out. As we approached the cave, I could hear the old man's voice calling out to me.
Zozo, you may enter, but only alone.
Sorry, Ramses. You'll have to wait out here. Ramses agreed, and I entered the cave.
I know why you've come. The Pharaoh is gathering his armies, isn't he?
Yes, I was hoping you might be able to help us. I thought maybe that buried item you had mentioned before might be useful at a time like this.
In fact, there is a hidden item that can help, but it is not the one buried here. I will give you the directions to the cave.
The old man explained where I needed to go to find this item. Excited to have a special item for the fight, I was getting ready to leave.
But before you go, Zozo, I leave you with a warning. I know your community has grown, but are you sure everyone can be trusted?
I nodded, but I wasn't sure what he could mean. Maybe he was talking about Ramses, but he had done more than enough to prove he wanted to help. I would keep my eye out for any suspicious villagers. Outside the cave, I told Ramses all about the item and where we needed to go. He was just as excited as me, so we headed off to find the cave. On days 67 to 70, Ramses and I had entered the cave. Soon, we saw an interesting looking statue in the middle of the tunnel. I'm surprised someone took the time to build a statue deep down in a cave like this. Suddenly, the statue sprang to life and started to attack us. It's a good thing Ramses had come with me though, as together we were able to quickly defeat it. Nice one, Ramses. Let's keep going. We continued down the tunnel and eventually saw two more statues. We stood there for a moment waiting for them to come to life. Maybe these ones are just statues? I guess, whoa! The statues had come to life and started to attack. There were two of them this time, which made it harder than before. But even then, we still managed to fight them both off. I wonder how much deeper we have to go. I mean, what's next? 3 statues? We continued until we saw a larger room. Inside was a huge statue, way bigger than the other ones. Well, I think it's clear what we have to do. Let's do this! Ramses and I got to work, attacking the big statue. Its big arms landed some heavy blows as we jumped around, getting as many hits in as we could. We even had to run out of the room and hide to heal up. Thankfully though, we were able to get enough hits in, and the giant statue was destroyed. As he vanished, we saw something left in his place. This must be that special item the old man was talking about. With this, we'll be able to beat the Pharaoh once and for all. Come on, Ramses, let's...
Sorry, Zozo.
Ramses hit me on the head, knocking me out. Before I blacked out completely, I saw him pick up the item. On day 71 to 74, I woke up to see that I was all alone. Oh, my head hurts. Ramses must have stolen the weapon and escaped. I've got to go make sure everyone is okay. I quickly ran out of the cave and headed straight to the old man. When I arrived, his cave was empty and all of his stuff was gone. Ramses must have beaten me here. What am I supposed to do now? Just then I remembered the buried item. I began digging around around. Surely I could use whatever this mysterious item is now. I uncovered a chest and opened it to look inside. A note. You had the power with you the whole time. Use your power of hope, will, and the strength of your people to overcome any obstacle. It's just a motivational note? I don't need that. I need a weapon that can save everyone. Oh no, everyone! I ran over to the other side of the mountain and could see our town was in flames. Why would Ramses betray us like this? I should have listened to the villagers, the old man. They were right about him. I hurried and ran down the mountain to look for survivors. As I got closer, I could see several of the villagers, and the trader came running up to me.
Zozo, where have you been? Ramses returned to gather all his soldiers, and they all attacked.
I'm so sorry. Ramses knocked me out and took the special weapon we had found.
That must have been what he was using. He had some incredible abilities and had turned into a monster, but somehow we managed to push them out.
I've got to stop him before he can give the item to the pharaoh. I better get to the city quick.
That's the thing. I don't think he went to the city. There's a fort near here. I think you should go there to face him.
I thanked the trader for his help, then went into the desert. I sure hope I can get the item back. On days 75 to 78, I could see the fort in the distance. I couldn't waste any time trying to be sneaky this time. I was charging through the front. As I entered the fort, Ramses' soldiers tried to stop me. Good luck! You guys are all traitors! I ran through the base, using my main weapon to throw them high in the air. I felt like I was running through the base, flipping pancakes. You're gonna need a meal on this flight. One by one, I tossed the guards into the air and out of my way. At long last, I made it to the main tower and ran up the stairs. As I reached the top, Ramses was waiting for me. On days 79 to 84, I stood face to face with Ramses. He didn't look like a monster.
I don't want to do this, but I can't let you go any further. Your story ends here.
Ramses put on a battle helmet and attacked. Ramses, how could you betray me like this?
I never wanted to betray you. In fact, I wanted to save you. You can't face my father. He'll destroy you and all the people you're fighting for. I thought if I could take the special item, you'd give up the fight.
I can't stop fighting though, can I? Your father will never stop. And even if we can live in our village, there are still hundreds of people still being kept as his prisoners. Just give me the item and we can stop him together.
It's too late. I've already sent it to my father. Just surrender now, and we can be done with this.
I don't want to fight you, but I can't let these innocent people be captured. I'm sorry. Just then, I landed the final blow, defeating Ramses for good. In another life, maybe we could have been brothers. I hope one day we can meet again. I picked up the helmet he had dropped and put it on. It was a sad day, but it was time to save everyone. On days 85 to 89, I arrived back in the village and met up with the trader. I told him everything that had happened and that the pharaoh now had the special item. He encouraged me to keep fighting, but first, we needed to fix the village. We all got to work cleaning up the damage in the village. The soldiers had really hurt the buildings, but it wasn't anything we couldn't fix. It took a long time, but soon, everything was back to normal. I then headed over to the statue and got to work finishing that up. Before I went to the city, everything needed to be properly put into place, just in case I didn't return. Soon, the statue was complete. Don't forget to subscribe, so you can be the first to go on our adventures with us. On days 90 to 94, I decided to take a walk around the base. I wasn't sure what to do next. As I saw the villagers tending to their crops, I noticed the ditches they had dug to bring the water in. Suddenly, I had an idea. I hurried to tell all of the villagers my plan. With the villagers on board with my plan, I gathered up as much sand as I could. I was going to need a lot of it if this was going to work. I also went back to the pharaoh's tomb to fight more gas and collect gunpowder. As a final step, I met back up with Hugo to ask for his help. He was pretty excited about what I had in store for the pharaoh and was happy to help. All his friends agreed to help too. All right, everything should be in place. The pharaoh better watch his back. I'm coming for him. On days 95 to 97, I made my way back to the city with Hugo and his pals. Everybody ready? Charge! I quickly put on my armor and we ran into the city. There were even more guards here than before, but they were no match for my gang of hippo pals and powerful items. The higher they go, the harder they fall. I flipped guards in the air as we made our way toward the palace. As we got closer, storm clouds began to roll in and lightning started striking the ground. It must be the pharaoh using the special item. We have to hurry. As we ran through the square, we told as many people as we could to flee to our desert base. The lightning strikes were getting really scary and hit some of the villagers. It even hit one of Hugo's pals. Luckily, he was able to shake it off and keep going. Soon, we were at the entrance to the palace grounds. On day 98, we entered the palace grounds and began fighting our way through. It felt like there was an endless stream of guards attacking us, but they couldn't handle the strength of me and my hippo team. Hugo, you know what to do. Wait here for me. I ran into the palace and managed to fight off the guards on the first floor. All that was left was to head upstairs and face the pharaoh.
Hey, hang on a second.
Nubia came running over to me. Nubia, what are you still doing here? Your father has become too dangerous.
I know. After you stood up to him in the arena, it inspired me to do the same. I had always felt like what he was doing was wrong, but it wasn't until then that I felt like I had the courage to say something. After I told him what I thought, he kept me trapped here in the palace. It wasn't until you stormed the palace today that my guards finally left me alone.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear things have been so bad for you, but hopefully we can bring an end to it soon. If I don't make it, the people of this desert will need a strong leader like you. Stay safe until this is over. Nubia nodded and ran off to hide. It was go time. I climbed the stairs and saw the pharaoh waiting for me.
So, you think having a beard makes you a man? Please, you're just the same little boy I banished into the desert.
Don't bring my beard into this. You must let my people go.
You can ruin my water and fill the streets with as many frogs as you want, but I will never let them be free.
Just then, the pharaoh stepped forward and activated the special item. There was a burst of fire, and he transformed into a giant Egyptian monster.
How do you like this?
I was surrounded by a ring of fire and was suddenly hit by a bunch of lightning. Oh, to be honest, I didn't really like it. I couldn't wait any longer, so I ran forward and attacked. The pharaoh hit me back, which nearly ended me in one hit. Looks like it's time for plan B. I turned and ran down the stairs and out of the palace.
What's wrong? Too afraid to fight?
Hugo was waiting for me, and I hurried and jumped on his back as the pharaoh and his men chased after us. They were close to catching up, but we managed to stay ahead as we ran out of the city. Once we were out, Hugo really put on the speed, and we got far ahead. There was a dried riverbed, which we quickly ran across. As we reached the other side, I turned to see the pharaoh and his army stop on the other side. Don't try to follow me or recapture the people. If you do, I'll have no choice but to destroy you.
Destroy me? Destroy me? I don't think you're in any position to tell me what to do.
The pharaoh and his army entered the riverbed, but I was ready to do my secret plan. I turned and hit a nearby button. The sound of explosions could be heard in the distance. The villagers had put TNT by the dam, which was holding back the water.
No, it can't be!
The water came rushing in, covering the pharaoh and his army. It looks like the plan worked. There's no way he's going to be able to escape all of that. Just then, I heard a splash behind me, and the pharaoh came rising out of the water.
You may have destroyed my army, but I won't go down that easy.
The river was my last plan. How was I going to defeat him now? On day 99, the pharaoh stood on the riverbank, looking down at me.
Enough of these games. I won't have a little bearded man boy ruin everything I have worked so hard to build.
My mind was racing. What could I do? Just then, I remembered the note I found in the old man's cave. You had the power with you the whole time. It couldn't be that simple, could it? Suddenly, a burst of lightning hit me, destroying all of my armor.
What are you waiting for? I'm here to end this now.
I looked at the staff I had carried with me. The staff had been with me the whole time. Now that I was a grown man with new power, I gave the cane a shake. There was a burst of light, and I grew into a massive, super buff version of myself.
What? Where is this power coming from?
I felt amazing. I knew that I was going to be able to fulfill my destiny. Just then, a ring of fire appeared, and the pharaoh hit me with lightning. It was on. The pharaoh and I swung our weapons, doing our best to get hits in. He was strong, but so was I.
You may be bigger, but I still have my lightning.
The pharaoh kept trying to hit me with lightning, but with my new abilities, I was able to dodge it. I couldn't dodge it every time, but it was clear he was running out of ideas. It was time to end this. This one is for my people. I leapt into the air and struck the pharaoh, which caused him to begin exploding. Soon, he disappeared. With the pharaoh gone, I focused my energy and returned back to my normal size. It was time to return to my people. On day 100, the world was finally free of the pharaoh's influence. I traveled to the city to meet with Nubia, who is now the ruler of the city. She was a nice ruler who let the people live freely, whether in the city or not. And she always made sure everyone was paid for their hard work. Our small village continued to grow, and I remained with those who chose to live there. Peace had been restored, and everyone could freely live their lives.